Welcome to Ladders, where we break down the guys you should add and the guys you should drop in your fantasy football leagues. Slim pickings after week 9. Half the NFL season's done. All the good players mostly scooped up. We're still going to try and talk about the guys who could fix your season or potentially make it much worse. I am FTW's Christian DeAndre. He is a Rhode Island scumbag, Mike. Yash, Yash, and Yash, how you feeling today?
Feeling okay. Got a little overzealous during the Patriots-Falcons game, so it was a rough re-entry Monday for me this week. But overall, it was kind of a nail biter. Wasn't one of our what we're getting used to now as Patriots fans, our typical Sundays. But hey, they got it done, and that's all that mattered.
One of the most Falcons outcomes possible. Didn't even bother establishing the run. They said, let's just throw it all over this Patriots defense. Had no problem. Drake London just being big.
Yeah.
But ultimately it worked out. The Pats are 7-2. And we are going to talk about the guys who showed out in week 9 and whether or not you should add them. And if you do, who you should drop them for. Starting with a quarterback who made some waves. J.J. McCarthy, Minnesota Vikings. Now, McCarthy, only 29% owned in Yahoo leagues for good reason. He's been hurt. He's been bad. But 143 passing yards, 2 touchdowns through the air, another touchdown on the ground. A guy who can make things happen with his legs, but also a guy who's taken way too many sacks. Yeah. So start off with a guy on his level, 22% owned, Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins. Yash, do you want Tua? Do you want JJ?
I'll take my chances with JJ here. I don't think either is a great option. However, of the two, JJ's got better weapons at this point. Does Tua have anything left? Besides, I mean, we have Jalen Waddle if he sticks around, if they don't trade him, Devon Achane. But I mean, really, it comes down to McCarthy's got, he's got Jefferson, he's got Addison, still got Hawkinson, and I kind of like that for him, and I also like his schedule better down the stretch. So between those two, if I have to pick between the two of them, I'm going to roll with McCarthy, but I'm not thrilled about it.
See, the schedule I'm not too worried about because there are a lot of AFC East teams in there, and Bills coming alive in the secondary. Cole Bishop putting some hits on some guys in the Chiefs lineup. That on the side, I do think there's some opportunity for Tua, and we did see him briefly rise up with a 4-touchdown game, but like you said, the weapons aren't there. The blocking hasn't been good. Now, that's a problem for J.J. McCarthy as well. He's taken way too many sacks. And if you're in a league that, subtracts points every time your quarterback gets hit in the backfield, that could be an issue. Yeah, that's our scumbag league. It sucks.
Yep.
Got to remember not to swear so YouTube doesn't throttle us again, costing us tens and tens of views out there. But for me, even though the floor is much lower than Tua, the ceiling is so much higher with a guy like McCarthy who can run. So, yeah, give me JJ. Going from a guy who can run to a guy who cannot run, Aaron Rodgers, 42 years old, 2 years removed from the torn Achilles, so he is rolling out a little bit more but scrambling way less. Yash, do you want the steady play of Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers, or would you prefer the high ups and Disneying lows of JJ McCarthy?
I'm going to take this one down to roster construction. If you have a roster that is somewhat stable at your other positions and you can afford a little more boom bust, then go with McCarthy here. If you have a lot of fluctuation week to week and you just need somebody steady, Rodgers is going to get you between 16 and 22 points pretty much verbatim every single week. So again, this one's going to come down to me, roster construction. I don't love either one of these guys anyway, so if you need the upside, I would say then go with McCarthy. But if you just need something to stabilize your roster, then stick with Rodgers here.
Yeah, I think we're typically looking at like a 1 week fill-in, right? Maybe you had Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn got him exploded for no friggin' reason last night. But for the most part, this is bye weeks. This is short-term injuries. And a guy like J.J. McCarthy, you don't know what you're going to get out of him any given week. So if you want to take the stability, go with Rodgers. He's getting the ball out really quickly. It's crushing the fantasy value of his wideouts because he's targeting his tight ends. He's not throwing the ball downfield. Actually, his average target distance is much shorter than it's ever been at any point in his career. But he's also getting hit a lot less. He's taking a lot fewer sacks. He's avoiding negative plays because he's still a smart, cerebral quarterback who gets rid of the ball and finds open receivers. Like you said, every week he's going to get you between 16, 22 points. That's it. He's right in that in that range. It's not going to get too much better than that, but he's also not going to do too much worse. So I
No.
agree with you there. Depends on your roster construction. If it's a 1 week fill in, go Rodgers. If you're swinging for the fences, take a flyer on JJ McCarthy. Finally, 48% owned, 4 rushing touchdowns his last 4 games. Former number 1 overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yash, 2 young-ish quarterbacks, iffy teams. Who do you want running your fantasy roster, Trevor or JJ?
If you asked me at the beginning of the season with a full allotment of weapons, I would say Lawrence. At this point in the season, he's throwing to a bunch of 2s and 3s. So I'm going to roll with McCarthy here, I guess, because we still have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison that he can throw the ball to. Now, there's no knock against Parker Washington, but Parker Washington is Parker Washington.
Famously true.
Yes. He is. He's been showing out. He's looked great. But I mean, he's not a true NFL number 1 receiver here. Now, keep in mind, they also don't have their number 1 tight end in Brenton Strange either. So now at this point, you could possibly be down Brenton Strange, Brian Thomas Jr., and you still don't know what the heck is going on with Travis Hunter. So in this case, I mean, I just don't like what it looks like moving forward for T-Law. So, I mean, I guess I'm going McCarthy here, but once again, not the greatest choice between the two.
Yeah, this one's really a coin flip for me. The one thing I really did like what I saw in that Minnesota game was that McCarthy can fit the ball in the tight windows. He's making some good decisions. He's making some bad ones too. He's a rookie quarterback. That's going to happen. Yeah. But that game-sealing throw to Jalen Naylor, and that was a low percentage throw that he made happen. You know, sheer force of will. And he's going to be able to run. Now, I said it before, Lawrence has those 4 rushing touchdowns, but he only has 5 designed runs on the year. He's not going to be an engine on the ground whatsoever. He might scramble every now and then and get you a little something, right, but you're going to have to rely on his arm. And this is a guy who's had 1 multiple passing touchdown game in his last 6 outings. I think I want the upside of McCarthy because the floor on Lawrence, like you mentioned, with those skill players around him, does threaten to drop out.
Right.
All right. Speaking of slim pickings, if you're looking for a running back, brother, it is rough out there. I don't know about your league, but in our Rhode Island Scumbag League, the pickings are slim to the point where, yes, Chris Rodriguez is a guy we're looking at. Chris Rodriguez, 3% owned, 12 carries, 65 rushing yards, and a touchdown, more yards than Bill Krosky-Merritt. However, a lot of those came in garbage time. So let's talk about guys that you might pick off the waiver wire and whether or not you should take them over our guy, Chris Rodriguez Jr. Number 1, from the New England Patriots, former practice squatter, elevated in Ramondre Stevenson's absence, Terrell Jennings, 1% owned, but coming off his first rushing touchdown of his NFL career and his first reception in his NFL career. Yaj, who do you want, Chris or Terrell Jennings?
I'm going to go with Terrell Jennings here. We don't know how long Ramondre is going to be out for, and Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels really like to use multiple running backs throughout the game, as we saw yesterday. So he's getting the short yardage work. He's getting the goal line work. And like you said, he has his first reception, so it's not like he's just a short yardage battering ram for them. So in this case, Rodriguez, I mean, there's still kind of like a hodgepodge between him and Bill, and you still have McNichols thrown in as well. So in this case, I'll take what seems to be the more stable role for now, which would be Jennings actually in the Patriots backfield.
Yeah, very surprising to hear, but you're not wrong on that one. Rodriguez has very little PPR utility, doesn't even have a target this year. Is a solid runner, but mostly average. Jennings, on the other hand, has improved significantly since his debut season in 2024. The former undrafted free agent out of Florida A&M has made a good impression, has stuck around with a new head coaching regime. His teammates like him, and not only is Ramondre Stevenson injured, but also he's a guy that can get yanked out of the game at any given moment because he fumbles the ball all the dang time. So, yeah, I think that Jennings any given week could really break through and break out. We saw it a little bit in week 9 against those Atlanta Falcons. We might see a little bit more going forward. Vrabel's a guy who came up under Bill Belichick. You know he's going to give his undrafted free agents, his end-of-bench guys, a chance to show out. Next man up. 5% owned, but out-snapped Tyrone Tracy in week 9. That's right. Devin Singletary, New York Giants. Do you want the veteran back who might now be New York's RB1? Or do you want the guy who might be Washington's RB2, Chris Rodriguez?
Sure, just give me the new RB1 for the week with the Giants, with Devin Singletary. It's mind-blowing considering he was Tracy's backup last year. So what has transpired in New York? I don't know.
Brian Daboll.
Yeah.
Brian Daboll transpired in New York, Yash.
Well, either way, Brian Daboll has not made up his mind on who he wants to use, it looks like. So the good thing is there's only two of them. Actually, no, because Jackson Dart still rushes the ball too. So again, we're kind of dealing with a three-headed monster either way. But you still have Jaden Daniels to deal with in Washington. So, I mean, let's go with less mouths to feed here. And in this case, I'll roll with Singletary.
Yeah, you never really know what's going to happen with the Giants. We just know Daboll is an angry man. He is a buck that has just been shot, and he's going to be taking some giant leaps going forward, trying to get away from his own mortality. And that is a tragic figure right now. For a guy I think is actually a pretty decent coach, just dealt terrible hand after terrible hand with the New York Giants. Some of it, of course, is that he's throwing away aces. Doesn't matter. At any rate, Singletary, 32 snaps in week 9. Tyrone Tracy, a guy I love, only 25. I guess Singletary.
I'm with you.
I got to imagine at some point Tyrone Tracy's going to get the job back. Maybe this is some kind of weird motivational tactic, but man, how do you trust any member of the New York Giants? And keep that in mind because we got a Darius Slayton thing coming up next. All right, 9% owned, our last guy to go up against Chris Rodriguez. Again, we're just picking from the bottom of the barrel right now because it's running backs halfway through the fantasy season. But a guy I actually like quite a bit. Former Michigan stud, Los Angeles Rams running back, Blake Corum. Yaj, you want Chris Rodriguez? You want Blake Corum?
I'll go Blake Corum. Again, it just comes down to potential usage at this point. And I think if Kyron ever went down, that is, you're an RB1 bell cow role right there. And even not, like he's still getting some work regardless. It's not a ton. But again, Rodriguez, take a look. Before last week, he really has not done much at all throughout the season. So I'll take the upside of a possible Corum role change than what we're dealing with Chris Rodriguez. Because again, no matter what happens, it seems like it's going to be him and those other two running backs. Jaden Daniels did get hurt, but that's another person that's in the equation. So now just give me less to deal with, which in this case would be Corum.
I'm going to agree with you on Corum. We saw a little bit of a shift. Kyron Williams is carrying the ball a ton. Sean McVay's a smart head coach. He's not going to wear out his RB1 to the point where he can't go in the playoffs. So I think we are going to see more Corum. A little bit of an anomaly, 2 straight blowout wins, and the Rams, not throwing the ball as much as they normally do. It's a 57% pass run split over there, and they ran the ball more times than they threw it in last week's win over the Saints. However, Corum wasn't necessarily the guy. He wasn't putting up those big numbers in garbage time. That last drive of the game was a Kyron Williams drive. So I do think there is enough trust in what Blake Corum has brought to the table and his steady improvement, negative 0.6 rush yards over expected as a rookie, plus 0.6 rush yards over expected per carry in his sophomore year. So I think he's a guy that you can trust and kind of bank on at least a miniature breakthrough going forward. If he's out there, 9% owned, go out, grab him. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Let's talk now about a wide receiver who got the ball early and got the ball often in the Indianapolis Colts. Big time loss in Pittsburgh. Danny Dimes turned the ball over 5 times, but he made his pecking order known. He wanted Alec Pierce to get the ball. Now, Pierce, 26% owned, coming off a 13-target game, 100-plus yards. Gosh, you want Alec Pierce, or do you want his deep ball doppelganger, 29% owned, Packers wideout Christian Watson?
Man, this is a tough one. I honestly like them both. Especially with Kraft going down for the Packers. I think that kind of opens up the field a little bit more, even though it's complete opposite usage. Kraft's obviously way more of a yak guy versus Watson. But I'm going to stick with Alex Pierce, actually, if I'm going to think about it, just because Pierce is healthier. And he's kind of he's been developing this role all year long, it seems like, with Daniel Jones. So I don't think this is a role that's going away versus last year where you saw him flash, but it was so inconsistent that you really couldn't get behind it. Now I think we're starting to see some proof in the pudding. Like he's putting together multiple good weeks. And it seems like him and Pittman are pulling away as Danny Dimes' two favorite receivers. So in this case, I'll go with Alec Pierce. Sorry.
Yeah. This is basically the Pam Beasley. They're the same picture. GIF. Yeah. Two guys who have average target distances 20 plus yards downfield. Mm-hmm. Two guys who are very boom bust. Although Pierce has been much less of a bust guy this year. Right. 10 plus fantasy points and more than in half his games thus far. And even when he only has 2 catches, he's targeted so far downfield. It'd be like a 2 catches, 57 yards. You can live with 7.7 points. You won't be thrilled about it, but you can get by with it. Whereas Watson's a guy who can tend to disappear a little bit more. Yeah. Now, what we have seen from the Packers is that Jordan Love does love dialing him up deep. We saw 2 huge completions in his first 2 weeks back. And like you mentioned before, Tucker Kraft is out. Jaden Reed is still dealing with that broken collarbone. Yep. So the opportunities are going to be there for Christian Watson. This one is an absolute coin flip for me. Yeah. I think if you want stability, you go Pierce. But if you want the higher upside, Christian Watson is going to give it to you, especially if the Packers finally figure out how to get their offense rolling for 4 straight quarters. Next man up, 35%, not quite the Giants wide receiver one, that's Wan'Dale Robinson, but a sturdy number 2, 6 targets per game in his last 3 games. Darius Slayton. Yash, Alec Pierce, or Darius Slayton?
I think I'm going to stick with Pierce. Right. That might be a mistake, but the thing with I love the 6 targets per game that Slayton's getting, but it's 6 targets from a very inconsistent quarterback in Jackson Dart. And he doesn't really seem to have too much of a preference where he's throwing the ball. He just needs to get rid of the ball. So unlike Pierce, who once again, like we said before, Jones seems to kind of lock on him at times. So in this case, I'm just going to go with just opportunity moving forward, and I do think that rapport between Danny Dimes and Alec Pierce is going to be the difference maker for me in this debate, at least.
I'm going to flip it because I do think that there is a building rapport between Jackson Dart and Darius Slayton, and because, well, look at the state of these 2 teams. The Colts are probably going to be winning games in the second half, and the Giants are in the opposite direction. So Dart is going to be throwing a lot more, I think, down the stretch. I think he's going to be throwing a lot more desperately. And he does have a very clear pecking order. It's Robinson at the top there, 11 targets in week 9. But Slayton's slowly growing on him, and he's being seen as that reliable veteran presence that he needs. I don't know if that's sustainable, but I do think the ceiling there is higher than Alec Pierce's. And I do think the floor might be a little bit higher as well, because someone's going to have to catch the ball in New York. Might as well be the guy that's been around the longest.
Okay.
Finally, 55% owned, guy who showed out in week 1 and has disappeared since. Buffalo Bills second-year wideout, Keon Coleman. Yash? Keon Coleman, Alec Pierce. Who you want?
I'll take Pierce here. I think Coleman. It really was just feels like a flash in the pan with him on week 1. I don't get it. I mean, his pedigree. He seems to be the type of receiver that would thrive with Josh Allen, but I don't know. It just feels like they're never on the same page. So, I mean, I would love to see him be successful. I'd love to see somebody run away with that wide receiver 1 job for Josh Allen, but I don't think it's Coleman.
Yeah, I understand why it's very difficult to drop a guy like Keon Coleman who has that kind of potential, but we just have not seen it lately. 112 catches in week 1, 7 games since, 172 receiving yards. And by the way, 112 catches, that was 112 receiving yards. That would have been incredible had he done that. It would have been a record. Alas, that was not to be. You just can't trust Keon Coleman right now. There are too many other weapons in the Bills' offense. Whereas a guy like Alec Pierce, yes, he's dealing with other weapons as well, but he's getting the ball. He's way more consistent. So, yes, go with a more consistent Pierce rather than relying on the draft pedigree and 1 great game from Keon Coleman.
All right.
We'll move on to our sell high segment. We're going to talk about guys who are rising and probably already on someone's roster. This week is Kyle MONANGAI, the Chicago Bears running back whose drum we've been beating for weeks. here on the Scumcast, which is not the official name of the podcast, but it might as well be. We got to roll it out in the Scumbag with Cast. Anyway, MONANGAI breaks through nearly 200 total yards in that absolutely bonkers game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Granted, he can't play Cincinnati every week, and DeAndre Swift's going to come back at some point. But, gosh, let's say Kyle MONANGAI is on your roster. You start getting those trade offers in for him. Are you getting rid of Kyle MONANGAI while his stock is high, or do you think it's going to go even higher?
If I'm getting trade offers for Kyle MONANGAI, I'm going to send one of those little middle finger emojis back at everybody else. I mean, come on. This guy is clearly going to start pulling away from the – well, I can't say clearly because it's still the NFL and DeAndre Swift's still established, but come on. They had a 50-50 split 2 weeks ago. He outplayed Swift 2 weeks ago. Now this week he comes out. He absolutely lights on fire. Over 170 yards scrimmage. Like, this guy is legit. I don't care what round he was drafted in. He's legitimate. And I am not getting rid of this guy unless you want to send me something, maybe Bucky Irving or somebody who's hurt but has the potential to explode. Yeah, sure. I'll make a trade for someone like that. Otherwise, no way. That is a waiver wire score. Be happy with yourself. Now you get a nice running back, too, for the rest of the season. Do not move this guy unless somebody blows you away with an offer.
Even when DeAndre Swift comes back, he's still DeAndre Swift. One, it's a Ben Johnson offense. You know he loves a quick runner and a powerful runner, and that's what MONANGAI is. But also, Swift is a mess. He's a guy who blanks holes in front of him. He should be the first running back in NFL history to play out there with a guide dog because he cannot see a damn thing. This is a man who is all the talent. He is flashy and explosive and electric, and you will occasionally see a 75-yard run down the sideline and cut right back up in the middle, right into a linebacker's chest. The man makes no sense, Yash. He makes no sense. No. Kyle MONANGAI. Oh, Kyle MONANGAI. Friends, Kyle MONANGAI, he's remarkable. Just a powerful runner, sees the hole, hits it, runs angry. Do yourself a favor, NFL teams. Go out and get you that 7th-round Rutgers running back. He's going to pay off more often than not. Don't trade Kyle MONANGAI unless it's a Godfather offer. Hang on to him because he's going to save your season. Believe that.